guys, and welcome back to the Emily Knits podcast. My name is Emily. I'm a knitter and crocheter based in Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live close to Sherwood Forest with my other half and our two dogs, one of whom you might be able to see in the background. This is actually Chase. Chase doesn't normally stick around while I'm filming, but obviously the more I've done it, the more she's got used to the tripod and the microphone. Pepper is the one you see more normally. He's much less phased by stuff, but she has decided to grace us with her presence today, so we'll see how long that lasts. Are you wondering what's going on? So, whilst I try and multitask here, today is, I think, episode 5 of the podcast, episode 6 of the podcast. We have one finished object. Head's too heavy. We have one finished object to talk about. I've got a few whips, most of which you've seen already, but most of them are now at a point where we can try them on, and I have, wherever I put them, I have now finally got some try-on cords. So I can try them on and we can talk about where we're actually at with them and progress on them. We have a giveaway winner to announce, which I'll do first off. No acquisitions this week, but a bit of a ramble to have about about my thoughts on my knitting going forward, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. It'll seem less. I hope the mic picked that up. That was a mighty sigh. Yeah, my thoughts on test knitting and overwhelm in knitting and deadlines and things. So yeah, we will get into all that. First thing to do is to talk about the giveaway. So if you watched last episode, I had announced that I was going to be running a giveaway for the Irene sweater by Rebecca of Journey Through Knitwear. So I'd finished test knitting that for Rebecca. It is now out if you wanted to go purchase yourself a pattern, and I really highly recommended it. As part of the test knit, to say thank you, a lot of designers will, I think I mentioned on the last one, a lot of designers will give you a choice of one of their patterns from their catalogue to say thank you for test knitting. But with Rebecca being a completely new designer, the Irene was her first design, completely. So she had offered an extra copy of the pattern to give away to family or friends, and she'd agreed that I could use that as a giveaway on here. So without further ado, I will pop the winner up on screen up on here. I think it was Carol Beck off the top of my head. Well done, Carol. If you want to drop me a message on Instagram to collect your prize, I will put my Instagram username and everything up on here, and there'll be a link down in the description box below. It's the same as the channel username, but if you can't use Instagram, if you contact me on Ravelry, again, I'll pop that up on screen. That is different to the channel username. But yeah, if you reach out that way, if neither of those are accessible, if you drop me a comment down below, then we will find some way to make it work. But I'll get that copy of the pattern sent to you, and well done. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy knitting it. So moving on then to starting with finished objects. I'm going to show these quite quickly because they've been used. They've only been used once, but as you may have noticed if you've watched my podcast before, and just even today, my dogs are very hairy. So they've only been worn once, these, but they have got hair on them, so I'm going to show them quite quickly and probably not show them too much. But I have finished the socks that I was knitting. But I have finished the socks that I was knitting for Christian. There is another one, but like I say, I'm not going to show them too much. So these were a self-striping sock yarn. This was the Stylecraft Head Over Heels is the name of the range. Stylecraft is the brand, obviously. This was particularly the Walk on the Wild Side collection, I think is probably the best way to call it, the collection. It was a couple of colourways done by a particular designer, and I got them reduced on the Wool Warehouse website. Because I think this must have been limited edition and they aren't doing them anymore, but you may still be able to find them some places. These were, I think, only about $3.99 a ball because they were reduced, because they were getting rid of them, but I don't think they're super expensive anyway. And as you can see, I've got quite a lot left of this. So Christian is size 12 foot. These are quite big. and I've done a fairly long leg on them as well. So if you were knitting for someone with a smaller foot, you could probably get two pairs of socks out of this. I haven't weighed it yet, but I will weigh it and put up on the screen how much I've got left, because I think there's probably still maybe about 30 grams of this left, so I could probably get a pair of shorty socks myself out of it if I wanted to. I always say I'm going to do that with socks, but I find that once I've knit a pair up, I don't really want to go back and knit again with the same yarn, so it ends up going into scrappy blankets, which will go into my crochet hexie blanket. But and there she goes. Shush then. It's been all change. The next door's dog's barked. I don't know if I'll keep that in or not, because I will have jumped out of my skin. It might be quite funny, it might not. I'll see what it actually looks like. But she was very upset by that, so we've lost the guest for now. That was Pepper going to see what happened. Hey, what was I saying after my fright? Yeah, the remains of this will go into my hexie blanket, but I'll weigh it and let you know how much I've got left, because like I say, Christian has fairly large feet. He's a size 12 tall man, so you know, unsurprisingly he has big feet, but if you were making them for yourself, you could probably get quite a lot out of all of this. I mentioned last time that I had cut out a little bit of the repeating pattern. Dog fluff. So there should have been another blue line here, but I actually wound a bit off because I didn't want the blue stripe to go into the blue that I'd used for the heel, which was just a leftover woolly knit cone of their sock yarn. They're 75% merino, 25%, or 75% wool, 25% nylon sock yarn. I'm pretty certain the Stylecraft is the same makeup. It's a wool nylon blend. And I think even full price, that's what I was trying to say. I think even full price, it's only about maybe £7.99 a ball. But I think I maybe got it for £3-4. I'll pop the proper price up on screen of what it is full price if you can get other colourways of this. And yeah, what I paid for it for the colour, for the Walk on the Wild Side colourways. It's not called Walk on the Wild Side, thanks for that. It's called Walking in Nature, not Walk on the Wild Side, very different things. This was the colourway Ramble. I've got two others upstairs which were called Stroll and Promenade, and they're all, you know, walking themed names. This was really actually quite nice to work. I really enjoy a self-striping sock yarn because it just, for me, it makes it more enjoyable to keep knitting, because I just want to get to the next stripe and the next stripe and the next stripe. So yeah, really enjoyed them. They've already been worn. They fit in really well. I was worried they'd be a little bit big, but actually they fit in perfectly. So what that goes to show is that really I should have been knitting his socks a little bit longer all this time. Here we are, she's back. So yeah, that's the only finished object this time. But like I said, there's been quite a lot of progress on the whips that we spoke about last week. So we will move into them. What we'll start with actually is a new whip. So once I'd finished these, I did say, I think on the last one, that I'd enjoyed them that much that I've got quite a lot of sock yarn in my stash. So I wanted to cast on another pair of socks and keep a pair of socks on the needles. I like to use a 2.5mm for my socks. I like a 2.5mm small circular. That's my preferred way. I have done magic loop in the past and I quite like that. I don't like DPNs. I just don't get on with them. I do use DPNs for my toes, but I find them really clunky and they catch on my sleeves and things. And I think that's probably more that I've got DPNs that are too long rather than not liking DPNs. But I don't enjoy the process enough to want to try and find a way to make it work, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's how I knit all my socks. I should have said that before. And I always do 72 stitches as well on a 2.5mm short circular. I didn't follow a pattern for these. I suppose I do use the Crazy Sock Lady's vanilla sock pattern. She has one for DPNs, one for magic loop, one for small circular. And when I started knitting socks, I knit the magic loop. So I have the magic loop pattern, and I don't follow that because I do it on small circulars, but I follow the numbers from that. So I follow the numbers for the heel turn and gusset, the heel flap and gusset. I should have said that's what these are. Slip stitch, heel flap and heel turn and gusset. And I also follow the numbers for the toe, which is just a plain, I suppose, circular toe. It's not anything special. It's not anatomical. It's not an umbrella toe, anything like that. So that's the closest I get to following a pattern because I use those numbers, but I just knit them how I like. Basically, I choose whatever I want for the rib. This was, I think, 15 rounds of 2x2 rib. I knit the leg to the length that I want. I don't count the number of rows, and I like the self-striping that you can then match up the stripes so you get the two the same. And then I follow the numbers for the heel flap and heel turner, and then I knit the foot to the size that I want. So it's more of a recipe, I guess, than a pattern. But I want to kind of keep, I've got a lot of sock yarn in my stash. I kind of want to keep a pair of socks on the needles at all times so I can get through that. And also Christian does really like wearing hand knitted socks. So if I can keep making him some of those, then it helps everybody. So with that in mind, I've got another sock cast on. So I let Christian pick the colour that you want for this one, basically. I got out all of the yarn in my stash that were for socks that I thought he would like. Took some pictures of it and said pick, basically. And this was what he picked. So this is from Dystopic. Oh, I should have brought the ball band. Dystopic Fibres. Dystopic Fibre Yarns. I will put it on screen. I'm just so terrible with names. I know it's been a busy week, so I'm really sorry. But I really rate this. So this is a Scotland-based dyer. John is a Scotland-based dyer. He's based in Glasgow. So I quite like that it's a UK-based dyer as well. He has... I bought one of his sock sets. So earlier in the year, no, it was back end of last year. It was over Christmas. We went to Northumberland for Christmas. We stayed in Northumberland, and one of the days we travelled over into Scotland and we went to Galashiels, and there was a little shop in Galashiels which I think is called Tangled Galashiels. Again, I'll put it on screen. I remember it's one way or another there is a festival up in a wool festival up in Galashiels, which is either called Tangled Galashiels and the shop was called Untangled Galashiels, or it's the other way around. So I will put the name of the shop on screen. It was a really nice little shop. The lady in there was super friendly. They had some really nice stuff in stock, and I got myself, they had some Dystopic fibre in stock. So I got myself one of the sock sets, which was this beautiful bright green mini, and then this main skein, which is all blues and greens and sort of silvery bluey greys in there, you can see. And then yeah, this super bright tonal, almost neon highlighter green. The colourway was called Winter Mint, I think, or Winter Mint Chocolate. It said Winter Mint on the ball band, and then in his shop I'm pretty certain it said Winter Mint Chocolate. It was a winter colourway. How good do they look together? And I have cast on a free pattern from Reveries, which I've knit a pair of these before. I have tweaked it a little bit. I always do. I'm sure these are called the Simple Slip socks or the Simple Slip It socks. I'll put them on screen and I'll link down below again. Let me show you. So this is a really easy pattern of, you basically on your alternating round, you knit one round plain. It's a free pattern, like I say, so I'm not giving away any details. You knit one round plain, and then on your next round you slip every fourth stitch, and it creates these almost like little it's almost like a ribbed effect, but it's not ribbed, and it's really fun to knit. I have done it with, I think it just has 1 by 1 rib in the pattern. I've done it with twisted rib or half twisted rib. My knits are twisted, my pearls aren't, and I did 10 rows for the cuff when I think it said 15, 20. And my main reason for that is because I've never actually used a sock set before. This is a little 20-gram mini, and I want to do heels, cuffs, heels and toes out of this, and I'm not sure how much that's going to take because I've never actually used a sock set, so I don't know how much it does take. So I was a little bit wary, basically, so I did 10 rounds for the cuff. But yeah, really pleased with how these are working out. I like this pattern for not for self-striping, for hand-dyed yarn, because it sort of makes the colours pop a little bit differently, rather than it just being a plain vanilla sock, although this would look lovely in a vanilla sock as well. And it just makes it a little bit more interesting. It's like I mentioned, did I mention last week? I like to do a vanilla sock, or I like to do what I consider vanilla plus, which is either like a 3 by 1 rib or something like this, where I don't have to think about the pattern. I don't have to pay much attention to it, but it has a little bit more interest than just stocking it in the round. There is actually something to it. So this is just the first sock. This is all I've got done. I've probably got about another half of this again before I want to do the cuff heel. If I put these together, the other way around would work better, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay, a little bit more than that again if I want to make them the same length as these. But yeah, really loving how these are turning out, and this yarn is really lovely. I'm pretty certain, again I'll pop on screen because I've forgotten to bring the ball band with me, but this is, I'm pretty certain, maybe an 85-50 nylon blend. It's a wool nylon blend, merino, superwash merino nylon blend, but it's lovely. There's quite a lot of squish to it, and it's one of the nicest sock yarns I think I've ever worked with. And I've worked with, whilst you haven't seen them on the podcast, I have in the past worked with quite a lot of hand-dyed sock yarns. So far, obviously it will partly depend on how it wears and washes and everything, but really rate this yarn. And I'm fully intending, as it stands, to try and pick up some more of John's sock sets, to try them a bit more, because the colours are also gorgeous. So quite often I think a lot of his colourways are inspired by mushrooms and fungus and things like that from nature. So yeah, really also like that kind of aesthetic and that kind of inspiration. So far highly recommend, but we'll let you know how I get on with these once they're done. They're not super budget because it's hand-dyed sock yarn and it's a sock set, but it was £20 for the full, I think it's a 100-gram cake and then a 20 on top, which for hand dyed actually isn't that bad, because you pay, I've seen some go up to like 22, 24, 25 just for the 100-gram hand dyed skein. So with the mini there as well, that seems like fairly good value to me. Although, like I say, it's not budget. I think, yeah, value is the word for it rather than budget or affordable. So that's, you know, if that's something that floats your boat and you're interested in, I would say this seems like a really good option. Look how good that green looks. I really like this sort of neon-y highlighter green colour. Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about a couple of whips that you have seen, and then we'll move into a couple that you haven't. The first one to mention is my Reveries Tee that I mentioned last week. I've not made much progress on that, so I haven't got that to show today. I've added maybe 2 or 3 rounds onto it, but that's not going to be enough that you can actually see it, so I haven't brought that out to show you today. But the next one to show is this, which is my summer's evening sweater, which is a test knit for Work Knits. This did this last time. I've been knitting on this morning. There's something about this that the moment I leave it, it all gets tangled, because I've untangled it once this morning already. So we are making progress on this. I have actually joined in the round for the body. So we have some sleeve holes there. Yeah, we have some sleeve holes. I have actually knitted this once, all these increases, and joined. And then when I tried it on, I'll see if I can pop the picture up here. When I tried it on, we realised that this happens with test knits. This is part of the point with test knits, but we realised that my my armhole was coming down really low, lower than intended. So Lauren did some fiddling with the numbers and fiddling with the pattern, and I ripped back. But I've got it back to the point now where we have rejoined. I had also, once I ripped back, I realised I'd not done my increases correctly and I hadn't increased enough. So hopefully this will fit a lot better now, but this is going to be the first thing that we try on, and I haven't actually tried this on again yet since I have redone the join. So give me 2 seconds, I'll get it on some try on cords and we will see. Whilst I'm popping it on the cords, actually I'll talk a little bit about the pattern and the needles and things. So I'm knitting this on 3.5mm needles, which is the recommended needle size for the pattern. I am knitting it in a cone of Uppingham yarns in the shade Pebble. This is their 100% Shetland type wool fine 4-ply is what it says on the inside. And what was I going to say? So I'm not knitting a straight size in this. I mentioned last time Lauren does have straight sizes that you can knit in the pattern, but what was interesting to me about this, and one of the reasons I wanted to test this for Lauren, was she has done something a bit more unusual as well. So first off, it's a bit of an unusual construction, which we'll talk about in a minute when I get it on the needles, off the needles, sorry, and we can try it on. It's not a straight raglan or a drop shoulder or a traditional sort of saddle shoulder construction or anything. It's a bit more different. And also, she has straight sizes in the pattern, so if you want to just knit one of those and follow one of those, fine, you can. But she also has a formula at the end to take your own measurements and turn that into a custom size basically for the pattern, which is what I've done. Which was quite interesting actually, because by bust size I should have been following a very different size to what it's come out with on the custom pattern. And when I tried it on the other day, yes, the armhole depth was a bit too low, but the neck and the shoulders, I think there, the neck and the shoulders were fitting really, really nicely, better than anything really that I've had before. So I think yeah, you can now see the shape a bit better. So let me pop this on and we'll see how it's fitting. Trying very hard not to pull the cable off while I'm doing it. There we go. So this neck, look how nice that neck fits. Excuse the top. I've just put a plain black top on because I wanted to be able to try stuff on without having to constantly take off knitwear to try it on. Yeah, that's fitting really nicely, and the armhole depth is much, much better now. Also, the ease across the chest is much better. Let me see if I can drop you down a bit so you can see. Yeah, perfect. So not the most flattering angle for my chin, but who cares? So this is what we're looking like. So I said it was an unusual construction. Let me talk a bit more about what it actually is. So if you're experienced knitters, I'm sure you'll probably know, there's usually you do a raglan or you do a drop shoulder, so you knit a big square and then you add your sleeves, or you do a saddle shoulder and you create like little patches and then you knit out from there. What Lauren's design does is sort of a combination of a few of those things. So you start off and you knit a circular yoke. This bit is circular. You've got your normal increases like you would around your yoke, and then you split for your sleeves, but you split quite early. Obviously this is on my shoulder cap. This is split quite early, and then you knit a portion straight before you do anything else, which you can see here. I've knit a portion straight, and then you start to increase. So you then do some raglan style increases under your sleeves. And Lauren has found this gives her a really, really good fit. And honestly, I would have to agree. How good does that look? Excuse the blue is just my armhole stitches on hold, but it fits really nicely. It's going to have an I-cord neck, so that will pull this in quite a bit. This is a really, really nice fit. I can't get over this. I just shut up and let you look at it for a minute. Yeah, really, really pleased with this. I'm pleased with a few things about this. The fit obviously looks absolutely impeccable, and I'm really excited to see how the rest turns out. There is some waist shaping in it to bring it in a bit. And then the sleeves do cinch things in a little bit here as well, because I do still have quite a bit of gap between. So the top is here. I should do that the other way around. The top's there, and then my armpit is there. So there is still quite a big gap, but the armhole cinches it in a bit. And I think this is going to fit really, really nicely. I'm also very pleased with the yarn. I like the colours. I don't know if you can see. It's almost, I'll hold this up in a minute. I'll take it off and hold it up so you can see. But when I swatched and blocked with this yarn, it really softens and it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm really excited to have this to wear, because it's quite a light fingering weight yarn. It's very, very thin, and it's on 3.5mm needles. So it's quite a lightweight fabric. It's quite airy, but it isn't, you know, it's obviously not see-through, and particularly when it blocks and blooms, it's not going to be. So I think this is going to be a really wearable piece. I think I've settled on, in Lauren's sample, which I'll put something up here. You'll be able to see it's got different colour sleeves, and I don't think I'm going to do that. I was going to initially, but I don't think I'm going to. However, what I think I will do is do contrast coloured I-cord for the neckline. For the wrists have I-cord cuffs, the body has an I-cord cuff, so I think I'm going to do a contrast colour for those. And yeah, really, really pleased with how this is fitting. Let me take it off. So just to show you the colour, you can sort of see there's a lot of nuance to it. It's a much more dark neutral than my Leo's cable sweater that I was wearing last episode. It's like a greyish colour. It's got some browns, some yellows. This is a really, yeah, you can see the yellowy tones coming out here, and it's really beautiful. So yeah, really pleased with how this is turning out. Back up we go. So yeah, that's where we're at with the summer's evening tea. There we go. Complete blonde moment there. And before we go into other whips, I'm going to talk about some thoughts I've had. So get yourself a drink, strap in. So a lot of you will know, if you watched the last episode, you will have seen this. This is my Zephyr test knit. That's the wrong way around. My Zephyr pullover test knit for Emily Chen, Knits. Excuse the jingling. And obviously I was working on that, this and my Reveries Tee, which are all test knits. I found myself, after I'd filmed the other week, I'd spent all of the day working on this. And I had done, I've still got my stitch marker on it. No. I'd spent ages working on it. I had maybe half an inch after splitting for the sleeve. And I had spent all day working on it, and you can see there how much I've done beneath the sleeve. It's not much. It's very, very slow going. And I had found myself sat there starting to lose mojo for my knitting completely, feeling like I didn't want to work on any of my projects, or actually more accurately, feeling like I couldn't work on anything I wanted to work on because I had deadlines, because this was going to take me so long and I had this to work on and that's the other one, and this was the thing that was mostly concerning me because it was taking me so long to do such a little bit of knitting. And I was making myself feel so guilty about not wanting to knit on anything else, not wanting to knit and finish these because I shouldn't, because I needed to work on this because I've got a deadline coming up. I was making myself feel so guilty about it, and it was leading to me just not wanting to pick up anything at all because I didn't think I could pick up anything else other than this, and I didn't want to work on this. And I just had a realisation. I gave myself a bit of a shake and realised that this is our hobby, or this is my hobby. I've had hobbies come and go over the years. I have picked them up, put them down, left them, not picked them up again for years. Knitting has been a constant in my life since I started doing it 4 years ago when I picked it up during COVID. I do it pretty much every day. There's probably only a handful of days throughout the year where I don't knit, and usually that's when I'm on holiday or travelling or something. I do it in my downtime. It calms me, it brings me joy, it makes me happy, it makes me proud. And it's the only hobby I've ever felt passionate about enough to come and share on the internet with other people. And I'm sat there imposing deadlines on myself and imposing conditions. You have to work on this, you have to work on that. And I'm making it a chore for myself. What am I doing? Like, that was the realisation, was what is wrong with me? Like, why have I done this? So with that realisation, I made some decisions there and then, and I casted on some new things down here. And I also made some decisions then over the period of the next week or two. I did some pondering on the projects that I have on and things like that at the moment and what I'm going to do. So I've followed what I wanted to do there and then, and I cast on a couple of other projects. And the progress that I've made on these in a relatively short amount of time shows that I did exactly the right thing. And once I'd done that, and once I'd made some decisions about my test knitting moving forward, the joy just flooded back into my knitting. Once I'd taken that thing there that was blocking the joy, it just came flooding back. So I've made the decision that I'm not going to sign up for any more test knits in the year. I started test knitting. My first ever sweater that I knit was a test knit, and I have test knit pretty much constantly ever since. I do really enjoy test knitting, and I think it's really beneficial. I like being able to help designers, particularly newer designers. I like being able to be a part of that community that you get from test knitting, because a test knit will always have lots of multiple people on there. There's a social aspect to it. I enjoy the dopamine of finishing and hitting that deadline, and I like having that deadline to be able to keep me from having multiple unfinished whips. But it's got to the point now where I have a few times signed up for too many at once. I've usually got multiple at once on. Sometimes they're things that maybe I haven't fully considered the impact. Not the impact, that's not what I mean. It's knitting, it's not impactful like that. But the time it might take me to do, or the impact that it might have on my other things in my schedule. And what's happened is both of these projects that I'm going to show you that I've cast on are things that I've had in mind or on a queue or saved on my phone for years. And I've never had time to do them because I don't have time for things like that, because I've got test knits constantly and they have deadlines, so they need working on. So I'm not saying never again with test knits, but I'm saying I need a break from them. And yeah, I'm saying this like somebody needs to give me permission. I needed to give myself permission to do that, and I have. So I have a couple of other test knits coming up. Both of them have longer deadlines. One's in September, so way down the line. I've swatched for that already and we're good, but I'm not going to start working on that yet. The other one is in July, I think. And again, this one's a summer top. It's got some detail around the top, but the rest is stocking out on the body. It's got no sleeves. It's going to be a fairly quick knit, and I'm going to keep with those that I'm working on, but I'm not going to sign up for any more for a while. I haven't put a deadline or a timeline for that onto myself, but for a while I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be able to follow what I want to work on, not what I feel like I have to work on. And I have also made the decision that I don't make very lightly, and I have contacted the designer to let her know that I am going to withdraw from this test. I couldn't tell you how many tests I've participated in over the years, but I suspect it's probably 30 to 40, maybe more. And I can only ever think of one other occasion where I've pulled out of a test, and I pulled out of that test because the designer was immensely unresponsive, and it was taking weeks to get a response to any queries, which meant that we weren't going to hit the deadline anyway. So I've been completely honest with Emily and said that I have signed up for too many things. I am overwhelmed. On top of those deadlines, I've had a really busy time at work. I was travelling this week just gone. I'm travelling again on Monday. Work is busy. I've got a lot of stuff going on there, and my mental capacity is taken up quite a lot with that. And then with test knits as well, it was just too much. And this one was particularly the one that was giving me the stress, because I didn't think, because it was taking me so long to get any progress on it. I'm not ripping it out, and I'm not saying I'm not going to finish it, because I think I will at some point, because it's beautiful. But I have removed myself from that to remove myself from the deadline. So with all that in mind, I will get it on needles to try. Sorry, get it on cut cables to try. Let me get the... and I'll show you where we're at, but then you're probably not going to see this again for quite a while. And I just need to point out as well and make very, very clear that this is absolutely no reflection on this pattern or the designer. I think Emily's designs are fantastic. She's got some really interesting stuff at the moment that, I really highly rate. This is the third time that I've tested for her, and it's also no reflection on the test either. It was a really long test. It's just not the right time for me to be trying to take on such a complex pattern, basically. And to an extent, I couldn't have known that when I took it on, because it was such a long test that it was, I think I signed up for it last year. Like, it was a very long test. So my work is quite cyclical. It's either sort of boom or bust. So I work in internal recruitment for an engineering company, and I work at a very senior level. So the roles that I work on tend to be quite unpredictable. It's not, it's never like, oh, we need 10 of this. It's like, we need one of this, and it's a headhunting kind of task. Which means that it can be very quiet because there can be nothing on, or there can be loads on. At the moment, there's loads on. When I signed up for the test knit, there wasn't. So yeah, to an extent, I couldn't have known. But Emily's patterns are fantastic. They are always very well written. I think she has some absolutely stunning designs, and her designs are very considered. The little details that she has on them are great. So it is absolutely no reflection on Emily or the pattern. It's on me. It's entirely on me. And please don't let this put you off from trying it if you want to, because it is absolutely worth it. All that said, let me get it on needles and we'll try on. You okay there? Hello? Please don't start barking again, babe. So this is, yeah, again, this is gorgeous. Let me drop you down again. This is really, really gorgeous. The raglan looks beautiful. The texture looks beautiful. This would have, I know I would have got, and I will get a lot of wear out of this when I do finish it and I do wear it. Yeah, it is lovely. It's twisted rib around the neckline, and then you've got a texture pattern which is made up of twisted, half twisted stitches again. You've got compound raglan increases down here whilst maintaining pattern, and then it has two options, either a cropped length or a longer length, but you have big slits down the side. I think quite quickly it starts to slit, and then you have either a tapered sleeve or a wide sleeve option. This is on 4.5mm needles, and this was knit using my eBay mystery mohair that I got from a D-stash years ago, but it's a single strand of mohair, so it's not the cheapest of patterns, but it's also not, sorry, not the cheapest of projects to make, but it's also not super expensive. You could get it for relatively cheap. I think the thing to bear in mind is that it's a big time investment. Obviously that's something that I didn't consider. That's my fault. So yeah, this is unfortunately probably the only thing you're going to see of this for a little while, because I'm just not in the headspace to be able to work on this, which is a shame because it's beautiful. And the moral of all my rambling there is, I guess, if it isn't the right time for you and you're not feeling it, this is a hobby. Enjoy your hobby. Don't make it something that you feel obliged to have to do. Okay, so that's the Zephyr pullover. So with that all being said, let's move into my other two whips, which are both things that you've not seen at all. So this is the first one that, oops, oh, three, there is a non-knitting related whip as well. We'll talk about that at the end. These are both things from Stash. None of these have been, I've not bought yarn for either of these. So the first thing is the one that actually prompted this whole navel gazing, soul searching, whatever you want to call it, deep thought process. And this is a pattern that I have a couple of ways that I keep track of things that I want to knit. I use the Reveries Tee quite a lot, although I don't always keep it up to date, but I have just gone through and cleared it out. And what I also do, if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see something that I want to knit, I'll take a screenshot and I keep it on my phone. And this has never, it has now made it into my Reveries Tee, but every single time I'd seen it on Instagram, I had screenshotted it. I must have had this about 5, 6, 7 times. And like I said, I've wanted to knit this for years, and I've not had time because of my own inability to say no to test knits. So this is the Mika Tee by Yarn Me Up Designs. The designer's name is Johanna. I will put her full name on the screen because I've forgotten her surname. This is a fingering weight t-shirt, knitting a single strand of, light fingering weight really. I think the recommended yarn for the pattern is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. I'm not using that. We'll talk about yarn in a minute. But the detail on this is the, really hard to show, the dropped stitch pattern all across the front and also across the back. Again, it's twisted rib on the neckline. That's just my stitch marker for my centre front. And then you have these were really fun to knit, these dropped stitches. Really, really fun. So let me get it on some cables. I'm dreading this. This was a nightmare to get off the cables. When I tried it earlier in the week, I was concerned my numbers didn't quite add up with the pattern. And there was something else. The numbers, it was, one of the instructions said something like you should have more stitches that you put on hold for your underarm than between your stitch markers, because you had stitch markers on there. You should have more, and I had less, so I was a bit concerned. So I was quite keen to get this on the try-on cords because I was a bit concerned that I'd done something wrong, but actually it fits really, really well. So whether I've done it wrong or not, I don't know. My numbers didn't quite match up, but they weren't miles out, and it still fits really well. Everything lines up. The centre is where the centre should be. So we're okay, I think. So let me just, this took a lot of manoeuvring. And this, I mentioned briefly when I was having my little ramble a minute ago about test knitting and this really flying off the needles because I'd followed what I wanted to do. I cast this on Saturday 2 weeks ago. And by the end of that weekend, I had almost finished the entire yoke. I had, I think, about 10 rounds to do. And then I split for sleeves. So I really, really enjoyed this. It's not quick because again, it is 3mm needles. It's light fingering weight yarn. While I'm doing this, we'll talk about the yarn. So this was in stash. I bought this as a potential for my Reveries Tee, but it didn't quite hit gauge. This is the Woolly Knit 100% soft cotton kern, 400 grams in the shade Sea Firm Green. It's a bit more blue green in person, but it is a really nice sort of sagey, sea firm, summery spring green. It's really, really nice, and this has been really fun to work with. I have never properly worked with 100% cotton yarn, but I've heard mixed things. This didn't live up to those expectations at all. This has been really fun to work with. It hasn't been dry on my hands. It hasn't been, you know, uncomfortable to work with. It's not super splitty. It's just, it's really been quite fun and quite easy to work with. So I would highly recommend that. Woolly Knit is one of my favourite yarn, particularly budget yarn producers. I will put on the screen what I paid. I think it was maybe like £20–25. It wasn't much. And they quite often have offers on their cones, depending on the time of year. Will depend on whether it's one of their wool cones that they've got offers on, or their linen cotton, or their merino. And I think at the moment, it might be ending in the next day or two, but I think they did have an offer for the cotton cones where it was like 2 for £30, so you get 800 grams of yarn. But the yardage is really good on this. I think it's about 1500 meters. So there we are. Let me drop you down again. So this is where I am at. Excuse that, that's just my stitch marker. That is not a problem, which is what it looks like it is. So this is roughly what we're going to look like. It does say in the pattern, once you get to... Why is this sitting strange? Ah, there. That's why. That's better. So it does say in the pattern, it does suggest once you get to about 1.5 inches under your sleeves to go and put the sleeves on, because the sleeves will change how the pattern sits. So I am going to do that, but I'm not quite there yet. But this is what we're looking like, sorry. Those drop stitches are really beautiful. I love how they look. And it's the same on the back as well. So yeah, this is coming out really, really nicely. Obviously the neckline of this doesn't help, but it sits really nice on your neck. It's going to be a perfect summer top. It's a single strand of fingering weight cotton, so it's not going to be too heavy. It does have negative ease, so it's quite fitted, as you can probably tell. That's on my bust, and it's, you know, it's tight on my bust, but it's supposed to be. And then yeah, the sleeves, I think it's quite tight, so it gives this little bit of puff. You can see there's quite a bit of extra fabric there, because this is where you actually work all your decreases on your sleeves. And then again, twisted rib around your neck. I think this is sitting a bit off because of, yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, that's more like how it should sit. So it sits a little bit higher. And then you've got this across your décolletage, basically. But I really love how this looks. I think this is going to be a really nice summer tee. Summer tees are something I don't have a massive amount of in my knitted wardrobe, so this was something I wanted to prioritise a bit, and I'm very excited about this. Like I say, over the course of that weekend I got all of this drop stitch bit done, and I probably got to maybe just beyond this, and then this has been the next week, splitting for the sleeves and things like that, and I've just picked it up as and when, and I'm really enjoying it. It's not going to be quick. I've got a body to knit on 3.5mm needles, but it's certainly not going to be a really long slog, because I'm really, really enjoying working on it. That was a bit dramatic to get off. So yeah, that's my Mika Tee. I am knitting size 6, I think. The one thing I will say about this, it's not size inclusive, but it's not super size inclusive. So I am knitting either size 6 or size 7, which is the right size with the recommended negative ease for my size. And there's only 2 sizes bigger than me. Normally, I'm not small. My bust is not small. I've got a 50-inch bust. But normally when I knit a pattern like both of these, I am in the middle, if not towards the smaller end of the middle. And there are multiple other, I think for this one, it goes up to about a size P, Q, something like that. And I'm on about a J. Like there's loads either side. And the same with the Zephyr. There is only 2 bigger sizes than this on me, than my size on this one. So whilst it's not non-size inclusive, especially because there is a fairly large, you could do it up to, I think it suggests up to 14 centimetres of negative ease. I've got about 8 or 9, which I think is the other end of the recommendation. So it could, with that big range, you could go a bit further with your negative ease, but I don't, yeah, it's not great, is it? It could be better, could definitely be better. So that's the only thing to note. It's not size inclusive. I don't want to particularly bash on the designer because she has got a size range in there. It's not like I am not the biggest, but there isn't much bigger than me. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. So that is the Mika Tee by Yarn Me Up Designs. So we have one more knitted whip to talk about and one non-knitting whip. So we're nearly there. So this was another, this has been queued on my Ravelry for ages. I've liked it on Instagram for ages. And again, once I'd had so much fun knitting the Mika Tee, decided to just go with this. So this is going to be for Christian. And this is hard to tell how much of this is dog fur and how much of this is the yarn because it's quite rustic. But this is what I'm talking about. This is going to be the Halibut sweater by Caitlin Hunter, Boylan Knitworks. So I first time knitting a Caitlin Hunter pattern, but I've had the Halibut sweater in my queue for ages and ages. So this is what it's going to be, and this is where we're at. So I'm knitting this on, I think I'm slightly larger than the recommended needle size. What am I on? I think I'm on a 5. I'll check that and put that on screen. And I am knitting this again completely from stash. With the blue is 2 strands of Holst super soft in the shade Vintage Heather, held together, which again was in stash, and the cream is Drops Lima in the shade, I think it's just off-white or white, no sorry, it's chalk. I'll double check again and put that on screen, but again this was all in stash. So this was purely, I decided I wanted to knit it. I sent Christian a picture of it and some pictures of colours on Instagram and said would he like it and what colours would he like it in. He picked navy and cream, and I went on Ravelry to look at the pattern to see if I might have anything in stash. And the feature on Ravelry that really helped with this was the ideas in your stash kind of thing. And I noticed that some people had already knit this in Holst held together and some people had knit it in Drops Lima, and I had both of those things in stash. So I have combined it. You may have seen this on my Instagram because I realised I'd messed up my colour dominance. I'd intended to hold my white dominant and I had done what I thought was holding it dominant, but what I had actually done is hold it submissive. That's not the word, is it? I'd held it non-dominant basically, and that hadn't really become clear until these bits where it's one by one, where you can't see on camera, but you can sort of there. The blue's almost popping forwards from the white. And when I was knitting something else, or I was just watching a video, and it became clear that, oh no, I've done it wrong. And I googled it and I checked it and realised, and I put on Instagram a poll saying, what should I do? Should I switch now? Should I what? A lot of people said just carry on with the blue as is, and a couple of people messaged and said carry on with the blue as is, and if you're not happy with it, rip back, but only rip back to these bits because this is where it's really going to become obvious. So I think I'm just going to keep going with it as it is, and if it causes any issues further down the line, I'll see. But again, I've been really enjoying this. Colour work is one of my most favourite things to knit, and this has been no exception. It has been really, really fun. Again, this is only probably about a week worth of knitting. I just cracked on and really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed knitting on slightly bigger needles as well, because everything else I've got at the moment is on 3mm, 3.5mm, 2.5 for the socks, and I'm pretty certain this is a 5. So it's much bigger, and the floats look, I'm quite pleased with my floats actually. My floats look good. So yeah, this will be, Christian said, the only thing I am slightly concerned about is I think this neckline's a bit wide. I followed the pattern, I haven't done anything different, and Christian said he didn't want the big deep neckline, he just wanted the shorter crew neck, which is one of the options in the pattern. What I will do, I think, if it is too short, is I will, too short, too wide, I can go back in after the fact once he's tried it on and everything, and I can pick up here and do a folded one with a bit more thickness that will just pull it in a bit more. So there are options, but I'm hoping it's not, I mean, it does look, it doesn't so much want to hold it up against me, but I am concerned that that's quite wide, and that's without blocking or anything, so we'll see. But yeah, really enjoying this, and the yarns have both been really fun to work with. I've worked with drop sleemer before, but this is my first time working with the Holst. I have 2 cones in my stash. I've got the vintage heather stash, and I've got one that is, I don't know what the name of it is. It's like a mustardy, yellowy, browny colour, maybe caramel or something like that. I'll try and find out for you. And I've really enjoyed it. I got them in the Black Friday sale last year, and I honestly think I've enjoyed this much, and it's got so much nuance and stuff in the colour that I think I will probably look at buying another couple of cones in the Black Friday sale this year. Obviously we're away before that yet, so we'll see when we get to it. But yeah, very, very pleased with how this is turning out, and you will be seeing more of this to come. And the final thing I have to talk about is it's still fibre related, but it's not knitting. So I decided, I keep seeing adverts for these kits, these cross stitch kits. I used to do a little bit of cross stitch, and I keep seeing adverts for these kits from a company called Innocent Bones. I love the sort of aesthetic around tarot cards and things like that. I don't really know how much I believe them. Like I don't think, I've got some tarot cards. I think things like that, you can ascribe as much meaning to it as you want. It's like a horoscope, isn't it? If it says you're going to have a great day, you might go out and have a great day because the horoscope said you're going to. So I'm not really sure that I believe it, but I do like the aesthetic of them. I've come very close in the past to getting a tarot card tattoo. That is still very much something I would probably get. And I just love that whole sort of how they look, and that sort of, I suppose it's sort of gothic, isn't it? But it's not, yeah, I don't really know how to describe it, but that sort of slightly witchy aesthetic. Yeah, I really love it. And this is particularly what the Innocent Bones company do. They do cross stitch kits of tarot cards, and I think they've just started doing things of, I don't even know what you call it. I think they call it the folklore collection, and it's like scary stories from history, or you know, like things like I think one of the examples on there is like La Llorona, or maybe like the Chupacabra or something like that. It was sort of scary fairy tales, scary history stories that are passed down. I will try and put that in better words and put something up on the screen. Are you okay there? That was a big stretch. But I picked up one of their cross stitch kits. So they do individual kits for, I think it was £25, maybe a bit less than that. I'll put the price that I paid up on screen. You can get them on their own website. You can also get them on Etsy. They're a UK based company, so there was no excessive shipping or anything. And I got one to try it out, and I got the Lovers. I will put what it's supposed to look like up here. This is where I'm at. So if I've got the thing up here, you'll be able to see I've got, this is where one of the skeleton's head's going to be. This is the heart in the middle. I'm quite pleased with this. It really did come with everything that you need. It came with your Ada, your ring, all of your threads, loads of them, and they were DMC threads, a needle, backing fabric, your counted pattern, and full-on instructions for, like, if you were a beginner, how you should do it. So really liked that, you know, from how to put it in the ring, to how to actually do the cross stitch, to how to read the pattern, to how to then back it afterwards and iron it and everything. They also do sets of 3 where you get 3 at the time, and I think they're about £49. I didn't want to get one of the sets of 3 straight off the bat because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I have really enjoyed this, so I'm probably going to do that in future. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. It's similar to knitting in that you're creating a design and you see it appear in front of you, but it's counted, it's organised, it's methodical. So I've really enjoyed doing this. And I think I'm probably going to have this on the wall in my room where I work from once I'm done, and try and build up a collection of a few of them. What's going on? Oh, you're very comfy. So that is my final whip. If I show it a bit closer, you can see, yeah, there's a couple of little bits that I'm like, it's a bit messy, but do you know what? It's fine. It's mine. It's homemade. I did it. So yeah, I'm pleased with how it's turning out. And that is the only other thing that I've been working on. I have no imminent plans to cast anything on in the near future. But I said that last week, and here we are with 2 new cast-ons and a cross stitch project. Oh dear. Um, there are a couple of things that I'd like to cast on in the not too distant future. Lovely. But I want to finish some stuff beforehand, or get some stuff to a bit more of a position of progress. I want to keep going knitting socks. I've really enjoyed that and found that really satisfying. I should say as well, there's a couple of other things I've finished that are sort of more long-standing whips that I talked about in my original whip parade. Nothing major, they're more smaller pieces, but I'm putting together a video over sort of a month of finishing things, trying to finish those little things, and I filmed that, and we're going to talk about that in that separate video, so that will probably be coming in a couple of weeks. In terms of life and things, today is Saturday the 25th of April, and we should have been up in Edinburgh going to Woollygood Gathering yesterday. I did say on here that we were going to go, we did have tickets. Unfortunately, life has just been a bit mental. We've had a lot of stuff this month that has been unexpected costs. And like I mentioned, work has been really busy. So this week just gone, I have been down in Bristol for work, which is where one of our offices are based. It's about a 3 and a bit hour drive for me each way, so I stay over. So I've had a night out there, which is nice, but means that, yeah, time is limited. That was Wednesday, Thursday, so I came back late Thursday night. We would have then had to go straight up to Edinburgh for the Friday. And then on Monday, very early in the morning, I am flying out to Paris to spend a couple of days in Paris with work, again for work. That's where my work's head office is. Which again is great, and I sound ungrateful for it, but it would have meant, you know, Bristol, Edinburgh, Paris, no time in between to actually do anything, so it just didn't work out, unfortunately. I'd like to attend a yarn festival this year, so I'm keeping an eye out for other ones, but maybe ones that are a little bit closer, a little bit closer to home. Woollygood Gathering sounded really interesting because it's new and I wanted to support that, but realistically Edinburgh is a very long way away, so something closer would be better. So yeah, let me know if there's any that you're attending in the UK, where they are. If they're anywhere near me, I would very much be interested to maybe attend some. So that's life. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping to have some decent progress on the things I've been working on. But like I said, travelling next week, and then life is just busy at the moment in general. But I'm hoping this is the tail end of the busyness and things going wrong. So I'm hoping I'll still have some decent time to knit. And then we've got some annual leave coming up in May. So that will be some nice time to just have some downtime and just be, and maybe do a bit of knitting and crafting in that. Let me know if you enjoyed the episode, what you liked, you know, what you think to these projects. Let me know if you've had any thoughts on, not particularly even test knitting, but if it's just, you know, self-imposed deadlines and things like that. Have you ever come across that yourself? Have you had to have that moment of, right, what am I doing? This is a hobby, let's just enjoy this. It shouldn't include guilt. I'd be interested to know what you think, and let's chat about it down in the comments. But I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, drop the video a like, drop a comment. I love reading your comments, and subscribe. It really helps. It really makes me happy seeing the numbers go up. But yeah, we will leave it there. If you enjoyed, say, I'll hopefully be back in maybe a week or two, hopefully maybe about a week, with a video of sort of a month-long vlog of finishing things from the long-standing whip list. And then we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another podcast episode. And yeah, that's everything. I hope you've managed to get some knitting done if you were doing some knitting while you were with me a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've had a bit of downtime, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.